Hi, I am Follygon, and in this video I am going to be sculpting 4 different pairs of lips using some different techniques and some different styles. But before we get in and talk about that process, click that subscribe button if you are new around here. And if you are interested in learning more about digital sculpting, check out gumroad.com/Follygon. There you can find things like my custom brushes and materials, online courses, and a bunch of other free goodies. I'll be sculpting each of these pairs of lips on a sphere, as you know I love to do. And starting off with this first one here, I've already started sketching in the main shapes. For that, I just used a very simple standard brush to push a big form on the shape, creating those big 2 sections of the lips, pinched them up, and now I'm really only going to be using a clay brush and a move brush. So once you get the 2 main landmarks in for the lips, you actually have to sculpt all of the form around that to make them feel a bit more natural. So it's not just about creating the upper lip and the lower lip and then you're done. If you do that, everything's gonna feel just really stuck on and awkward. All the parts of the face kind of interact together, and that is why I have created this kind of blending on the outside corners of the lower lip, and I've created that transitional form on the outside corners of the upper lip. It's a little bit of a fatty area, a little bit of a combination for a muscled area of the node of the corner of the mouth. There's a lot of different stuff going on there. But those are the major landmarks that I'm looking for when I'm sculpting lips. You do not have to know and understand the anatomical form here to be able to sculpt lips. You don't have to understand what is going on under the surface to be able to sculpt anything. Yes, it's going to be helpful. Anatomical knowledge is always going to be helpful. Understanding what's going on underneath can help inform the decision for what's going on top, and how you make those choices while creating your artwork. But if you can simply observe and sculpt what you see, you should be perfectly fine. Like I said, I'm going to be sculpting 4 different pairs of lips here, so this is just the first one. I keep this one pretty kind of standard, just aiming for the major shapes, keeping it nice and soft and clean, and we'll take a look at that quick little turnaround so that you guys can get a better view for the profile, front, and 3/4. Just taking a look at those really quick before we move on to the second pair. And honestly, there's still some hard planes in that. I could have cleaned that up a little bit more. But, oh well, just a quick sketch. Let's move on to the second one here. This one, I use a completely different technique, creating these tubes of geometry to represent the upper and lower lip. Now with this technique, this is something that I do on a lot of different characters. I don't specifically do it with the lips though, I will say, but when you are trying to sculpt something and you are having trouble figuring out what's going on, your objective is to simplify. So what I've done is I have made a separate piece for that upper lip, I've made a separate piece for that lower lip, and I could have even simplified these even more. If you take a look at that upper lip, I could have separated that into 3 different pieces of geometry. If I would have done that, I would have had even more control over that shape, but it just comes down to, is it worth my time to split it up into all those different sections? Personally, I don't think so for something like this since it's so simple, but if you are struggling to create that shape, just split it up even further, and then you can start combining things like I've done here. For this pair of lips, I've made them much more thin and much more sharp and kind of squared off for that lower lip, just playing around with some different shapes. The great thing about facial features is that there is a very, very large variety in what you can create. So if you create something that feels a little bit off to your reference, that's okay, because you are most likely creating someone's pair of lips out there. Every character you create doesn't have to be exactly 8 heads tall, because in reality, very few people are actually 8 heads tall. So a lot of those art rules, right, are more guidelines than anything else. So use those guidelines to help you out, but don't forget to add your own artistic flair in there as well. If you're curious about that little bump that I have on top of the upper lip, that is for the philtrum transition up into the nose. If you don't add that surrounding form like I mentioned previously on the last mouth, things can look very stuck on. All right, we're moving pretty quick here and we're already on our 3rd pair of lips. For this one, I wanted to do something much more simplistic and much more thick and rounded. So for the upper and lower shape of the lip, I keep them pretty symmetrical at first, creating these curved shapes. Then I square off the bottom lip, create a little bit of a transition for that outside volume, and begin shaping up the upper lip even more. So for that, the first thing I do is give it a little bit of that Cupid's bow, create that additional form of the nasolabial fold and kind of node for the corner of the mouth, a little bit of a chin shape, and continue to refine from there. But overall, a very simplistic shape. Much more thick than the last pair of lips, obviously, but that's what's so fun about doing a bunch of quick sketches like this. For me to sculpt 4 pairs of lips here, I spent about 45 minutes, so I'm not sure what that would be, a little over 10 minutes for each on average. Sketching like this can be a great way to practice, play around with some new ideas and techniques, and of course, just have fun sculpting. One thing that I've been saying a lot lately is that you have to be in love with the actual process of creating the art. It can't always be about the final product. Because if you don't enjoy the actual process of creating the artwork, then the question eventually becomes, why am I even doing this? Do what you love, right? And today, I loved sculpting some lips. So that pair of lips was pretty simplistic compared to our first 2, but this last one is going to be even more simplistic, because this one is going to be a very stylized version of a pair of lips. There is a lot of variation in not just lips that people can have, but also in art styles. I love to experiment with art style. It's one of my favorite things to do here on my channel, but a lot of the time I'll see people aggravated or confused with an artwork not matching the original art style for a character. And at the end of the day, that's just extremely limiting of what art can be. So don't let anybody tell you what your art has to absolutely look like 100%, unless of course you're applying for a job and they want something super specific and you really want that job. That's a little bit different. But for your own personal stuff, create what you love and what you want to make. One thing that's really fun that you will notice now that you have watched all those other pairs of lips get created, during this stylization, I am actually still adding in a lot of the forms that you saw in those more realistic mouths. So the volume around the corner of the mouth is still there, pulling down and around for the chin, all that good stuff, a little bit of a transition for the edge of the lips as well, but for the most part that is kept very simplified. And that is the fun of stylization. You take something that already exists and you put a little spin on it through some form of simplification of form, or sometimes even the complete removal of it altogether. I also decided to give this mouth a pair of quick chompers because the mouth was wide open, and I thought that would be pretty quick and easy to do. So just threw in a sphere, chopped it in half, and I created a little bit of a blend there between the upper and lower teeth. One of the last things I do here is just go over a couple areas with some pinching to sharpen some transitional form, and create a little bit more of a tightness for the corner of the mouth. Well, hey, I hope you guys enjoyed getting to see a few different processes for sculpting lips. If you have an idea for something else you'd like to see me sculpt in the future, let me know down in the comments. Click that subscribe button if you are new around here, and check out gumroad.com/Follygon. There you can find things like my custom brushes, online courses, and some free downloads as well. Thanks again for watching. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.